edition of The Insight. I am Bablet Jonathan. Today, we are taking another turn in our series on education amid security tensions, amid a volatile security situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country as a result of the socio-political and security crisis raging over there in the two predominantly English-speaking regions of the country for over 8 years now. And some of the recent incidents recorded within the context of the crisis include the explosion of an improvised explosive device around the Enway market in the northwest regional capital Bamenda, during which one person died and 6 others were injured according to official sources, and of course gunshots heard Thursday in the southwest regional capital Boya ahead of the projection of the documentary on the President of the Republic, Paul Biya. We are looking at all these and some issues in the news, notably the flooding, the heavy flooding in the far north region of the country, affecting over 4 divisions with hundreds of thousands of persons displaced and at least 11 persons who have died, according to official information. Stay with us and meet our first guest in some few seconds. Our first guest today is Honorable Senator Enyin Francis, member of Cameroon's Upper House of Parliament from the Momo Division in the northwest region of the country. Senator Enyin Francis, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure being with you this day.
Right, let's begin in the far north region with the disturbing situation of flooding, heavy flooding, affecting over 4 divisions of that part of the country, with at least 200,000 persons who have been displaced, hundreds of thousands of farmlands destroyed, houses destroyed, and of course we are now counting 11 persons who have died in that natural disaster. What's your take on this?
Well, it's a pathetic situation. We feel worried, and knowing that this is rainy season, which in fact is affecting many parts of the world, with Cameroon not left out. The incident in the far north affecting many divisions and hundreds of thousands of people really in this very desperate situation, a call for concern to all Cameroonians, because it can happen anywhere. And I think this is not the first time this is happening in the far north region, which I do believe that something should be done, and done urgently, to prevent that from happening in the coming years, because we can't keep on every 2 or 3 years this flood in the north and the people are still in the same areas. They can be relocated, and in order to avoid incidents like this where people will be dying, hundreds of thousands of people homeless, cattle and farmland,
Thousands of hectares
of farmland destroyed. So we should start reflecting. If it means relocating the people, we should do that. And I want to thank the head of state, President Paul Biya, for the concern he has already shown to the people of the far north. He has always been doing that. With Madame Chantal Biya for their humanitarian activities to have rescued this situation to an extent. And I think we do pray that more should be done from we, the politicians, the elite, and so on, to see how we ameliorate the conditions or the living conditions of the people of this area.
Something should be done urgently, as you said, and the point about the occurrence of this natural disaster every year, almost every year, every rainy season, this is what happens. And for the past years, since 2012, that the President of the Republic was there, and he promised a causeway that was going to be constructed to prevent this situation, but that has not been done. As a senator of the Republic, what do you say about this situation where the President of the Republic talks about something and it is not done, and people are suffering, people are dying every year, every rainy season?
Yeah, I think in such situations, when the head of state makes a declaration, it is now left for the sectors concerned, ministerial sectors concerned, to start reflecting and seeing how they handle that situation. And in a situation like this where the head of state make promises and they are not being fulfilled, it's a bit unacceptable. Because if we imagine the amount of loss of human lives, cattle and farmland every year, and somebody is not doing something. I know the head of state is not very satisfied hearing this, and I'm sure actions will be taken as soon as possible, because that's what I said before, something should be done to prevent this. And if it's difficult to do that, we can relocate these people. The country has enough land in the extreme north, areas that the topography is a bit reasonable to prevent such floods from happening. Something should be done. The technicians should go down to the field and reflect and come up with a solution, then present to the head of state for action. I know he's willing to carry out any action if the right projects are presented before him.
Critics of the government are talking about laxity and lack of political will, even on the part of the head of state, because we are talking about 12 years since he announced the construction of that causeway in 2012. 12 years have elapsed. Nothing has been done, and he hasn't said anything about it.
Well, from speeches that we had, we knew something was done. Maybe it was not done well. That's why it's happening. That's why we had. Some work was done, and I think it was not done well.
But the causeway itself has not been constructed. They've constructed a dike.
Yeah, and they thought that could prevent it, and that's what has happened. You know, it's the same thing happening even in developed countries. We see flood carrying houses, killing people. The seasons with the change in climate change has affected every other thing in the world. And I think neighboring Nigeria will have the same problem, and in Chad. So it's not only particularly Cameroon. And when you see where the extreme north is, it's like a basin that receives whatever comes from the Chad and other areas passing through that area. And to prevent it is quite a huge project. Like I said, relocating the people is the best option.
Relocating the people is the best option. In the meantime, the head of state, as you mentioned earlier, has disbursed 350 million francs CFA for the victims, and that should be part of the, according to my understanding of what the Minister of Territorial Administration said, part of the close to 2 billion francs disbursed for some work to be done on the ground to prevent this situation. But there are issues about what is said to be a presidential aid or a gift from the President of the Republic, 350 million francs CFA for at least 200,000 persons. And the Nouvelle Expression newspaper made a rough calculation and said that each of them were going to receive 1,750. How do you see this?
I think, those are distractions. The cash amount is that we hear of over 2 billion also given for other, to handle other aspects on the victims of this flood, of the flood. And we know food has been provided. Somebody will just sit and say because of 3 million this. And when the head of state was acting immediately, we didn't know the figures that were affected, but he wanted to do something immediately. And I think you'll be seeing the minister going back again to the extreme north to do something.
With over 50 trucks of
it continues.
Some other things that have been.
So we don't just say the head of state has given the 1,000 something. That is just a distraction. Quite a lot has been done. The people have been given tents. They have been given foodstuff. More is going. Health situation is being managed, and so on. So if you compare that into liquid cash, it's so much money per person that the head of state has dispersed to manage this situation.
And of course, the Minister of Territorial Administration is on the ground, as you said, to handle all of that, to manage all of that. But as you said earlier, there is need for a sustainable solution, a long-term solution. So we shouldn't be coming back to this every year, every rainy season.
Because if you imagine how much we have been giving as aid every year when it occurs, putting that together, you can use all of that to solve the problem permanently. You know, and I know by now the head of state is reflecting, and something will be done urgently.
All right, let's take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. And after the press review, we're going to the northwest and southwest regions of the country where the security situation remains volatile, and with hundreds of school-going children still out of school because of the prevailing situation there. The press review. Glencore scandal unmasking the truth. The Voice reports efforts by international anti-corruption crusader Barrister Kere Muna to unravel the truth in the Glencore multi-billion corruption scandal involving Cameroonian government and state company officials. Breaking news: lawsuit against Glencore. Maitre Kere Muna reveals the role played by Finance Minister Louis-Paul Moutazi that's exposing the truth about the matter. Cameroon Tribune reports the arrival of aid for flood victims in the Mayo-Donai division, far north region of Cameroon. As reported by the Guardian Post, Territorial Administration Minister Atanganji Paul reveals that President Biya's financial package increased to 1.9 billion francs CFA. The Sun, Secondary Education Minister Professor Pauline Nalova-Lyonga slams devilish no back-to-school messages in the northwest and southwest regions. The Post, The Median, and the Chronicle Times report new guidelines of the presidential plan for the reconstruction of the northwest and southwest regions presented by Minister Paul Tasson in Bamenda. Northwest Regional Assembly, road covered so far in 4 years of existence, reports the Guardian Post. In The Voice, the Archbishop of Bamenda, His Grace Andrew Kia, officially opens Bamenda's Glass Hospital. Another issue of Cameroon Tribune tells its readers about the political undertone of the social actions of some political leaders. Interim Minister of Mines, Industry and Technological Development, Professor Fu Callistus Gentry, tells the Horizon that Cameroon is said to be the pioneer African country to transform bauxite to alumina and aluminum via the Minimata project. The Guardian Post puts forth a question: 2025 presidential, Biya to run unchallenged? Cameroon Insider says Cameroonian peacekeepers are en route to the Central African Republic. Thank you for staying with us. Senator Enway Francis, what do you respond? What is your response to that question put forth by the Guardian Post? 2025 presidential, Biya to run unchallenged?
It's an interesting question. We're in 2024, and 2025 will eventually come with its surprises. So, there are political parties holding meetings left and right and preparing for 2025. So, as Anna, I will not answer such a question that the head of state will run unchallenged. And he has never run any election in this country unchallenged. So I think the same thing will happen. But what we should be reflecting on will be the winner of that election.
Of course, the President of the Republic said when the time will come, he will know.
I'm just repeating that.
He will go to make
an arrest.
Will
go back to the village, or we will
arrest, or he will stand again.
Definitely. So we are waiting for 2025 to come. And then we will start talking when the time when we get there, we'll cross the bridge.
All right. Shouldn't he rest? Do you think he should rest?
It's not me to decide whether he should rest or not. He will decide when he has to rest, when he feels that he has to rest. So I think
maybe if the people call him again to stand, he will.
We are already calling him to stand again. You know, he's the chairman of our party,
and something that doing that is a disservice to the head of state.
No,
punishing the head of state.
No,
looking at his age and.
You know, we are in a complex situation, and that is politics. I will not stand as a senior militant of the CPDM to say the head of state should step down. Then there's something wrong in your, and we must keep supporting our head of state until he decides otherwise. So we will say, Mr. President, I am ready to go out to campaign for him in 2025, fully. But if he decides otherwise, then we start reflecting and then preparing a campaign, you know. So that is how it should be.
Right, let's go to the northwest and southwest regions of the country. First of all, in the town of Bamenda, where there was an explosion this week, the explosion of an improvised explosive device around the Enway market, killing one person and injuring 6 other persons, according to official sources. What do you think about this recent happening in the context of the close to 8-year-long armed conflict prevailing in those 2 regions, northwest and southwest?
I think I'll frown at that, and I will say that is devilish. It is inhuman. It is unacceptable for you to carry an explosive into a market where you have women, children selling, and you ignite it to kill them. Something is wrong somewhere. We condemn that. You know, we should not exaggerate the conflict in the northwest and southwest. People have turned this to be something else. How many people have died? People were complaining before that there was marginalization. Are we to talk of the marginalization today? We have turned to swallow it in our minds and say, okay, we are marginalized. How will you say you are defending a people and you carry explosives to kill the same people you say you are protecting? No, I think that level of criminality should be taken seriously by the security forces. And the population of the northwest region should wake up and say enough of this is enough. We can't stay and our relations are dying every day in the region. By who?
Isn't this an indication that the problem is still there, despite all what has been done so far by the government, despite all everything under control speech that we hear every day? Isn't this an indication that the problem is still there?
Those guys are not talking again about the problem that started this, what started the crisis in 2016. They are not more for that. It's something else. It's banditry, and they just want to prove their presence by creating situations like this to put fear on the population.
And in the Southwest Regional Chief Kamboya, on Thursday we heard gunshots prior to the projection of the documentary on the President of the Republic. The gunshots, a sign of rejection, a sign of saying, no, we don't want this.
And you who don't want this, you know, a few guys carrying guns and being misguided to use those guns on their populations, on the people they claim to protect. I can't imagine. We don't understand. And talking of solving the problem, which problem are we talking of now?
The decades-old Anglophone problem.
We know, yes, there was an Anglophone
problem. Not just the crisis, because the crisis started in 2016, late 2016. Yes. The Anglophone problem had been there.
It has been there. I think I said this even before 2016. I said that on the program Inside the Presidency in 2014, April, when I was being interviewed by George Ewana on the program Inside the Presidency. And he just abruptly asked me, is there an Anglophone problem? And I say, yes. If many people are saying there is a problem, then there is a problem. And if there is a problem, we should look for a way to solve it, because there's no house without problems. 2014, April.
And here we are in 2020.
Here we are in 2016. The teachers started something. The lawyers came in, and it went to where it went. And today we find ourselves where we are. The people handling this now are not the people that started this. So, what problem do you want us to solve now? Okay, let's say some people said independence. If you declare independence today in the Northwest and Southwest, tomorrow morning somebody will still be kidnapped. An explosion will still come out somewhere. The guys will still be carrying guns and causing the atrocities they are causing. So, what should be done? They have made our populations to remain desperate, confused, and in total fear all the time. Many people have died just because of pressure and tension, fear, no access to hospital when they are ghost towns. Is that what Anglophone stood for?
No, about the situation, the gunshots heard in Buea, prior to the presentation or the projection of the documentary on the President of the Republic, there's a question that's coming up. What was the necessity of going to present that documentary in the town of Buea? Because somebody could have been killed in those gunshots because of the presentation. Remember, in 2017 or so, there was an event of your party, the CPD, in Bamenda that turned sour, and that is where the escalation started.
Yeah, you know, it is normal. We are talking of a state. We are talking of a country. You know, the state mechanism, things cannot just stop abruptly because some guys are carrying guns and disturbing people left and right. And it doesn't mean that they are not reflecting on that. Everybody has reflected until we are called confused. If you ask me the solution to the problem, I don't know. And when we talk to most of these boys, I talk with many of them. Nobody is talking of what started this problem. Many of them, when you are talking one-on-one, they are talking of their personal problem. That is what is happening. So for now, I don't know which solution that can solve the problem. Because guns have entered into wrong hands. And you know the power of a gun. One of them told me the other day, where one guy was arrested, a bike rider was arrested somewhere, and the guy sent me an audio that they have arrested a guy from one village because he carried amber, and he asked me, if now you come to amber, we carry gun, tell you you carry, you go deny, and I laughed. You know, you can understand what it means. Yeah. So, people, we are all confused on how to manage a crisis. And the only way is, let these guns come out of the wrong hands. And I think many are giving out these guns. Many have been resettled after DDR. Many have had jobs. Many who came out that were not very dangerous are settled in the cities. And their lives have come back to normal. They are interacting with their relations and everywhere. So why are the other ones still holding guns but targeting the population?
And also targeting...
The gunshot in Buea, you go and sit in a hill, far off hill somewhere, and shoot 3-4 gunshots there, and you say you have disturbed. You know? It's just waste of time.
In the meantime, and in the midst of all these, children are practically victimized. Their education is somehow adversely affected or even hijacked, so to speak, for some of them who have not been to school for several years now because of the prevailing situation. Whereas we know, and everyone is expected to know, that education is a fundamental human right enshrined in national and international legal instruments, including the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and many others that Cameroon has signed and ratified. But this right is being trampled upon in those two regions. And this has been going on for over 8 years now. This is the 8th academic year going on in the same situation.
Yeah, it's painful. I think everybody has been talking about this. The clergy, diplomats, everybody, the elite, politicians, they want the children to go to school. It is their fundamental right for the children to go to school. And we're shocked to see that even educated people who pass through the education in the Northwest and Southwest will stand and say their junior brothers should not go to school. We condemn that.
But is it enough? The Voice newspaper said the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Leong, slams the what is called devilish no school message in the Northwest and Southwest. Is it enough to condemn? Shouldn't there be more action on the ground, on the part of government, in terms of solving the situation so the environment can be conducive for all the children to go to school?
To you, what do you think is the solution? Tell me, then we can follow up on that.
I'm the one asking questions here. That's why I'm asking you, because you're the senator of the Republic and the people are looking up to you for solutions.
Listen,
for answers to their questions.
We have given all the solutions, and I think I, as an individual, have worked a lot on part of the solutions. And when we talk of solutions, you know, every area has its specificity. I can concentrate in my area, where I come from, and my impact cannot be felt in a place like Bui. I'm from Momo Division. I'm from Widikum precisely.
So what have you been doing on the ground?
My impact can be felt within Widikum, which will not be the same in another area. So it needs a joint move by everybody. You, the journalists, the politicians, the elite, the parents, the women, the youth. Everybody has to work for us to arrive at, in fact, a situation where the violence against children going to school, against teachers, should stop.
Tell us what you have been doing at your level in the Momo Division.
Since 2026, it's a long story. And I think, if you remember, there was a time I descended to Momo Division in the heart of the crisis, 2019 November, with a peace caravan. It was a delicate mission to Enway. Thousands of people came out. And when I got there, the administration had prepared a table, a high table up there and chairs down there. I told them I'm not sitting down anywhere. I want to talk to this population. And I had to carry a microphone around the market. And finally, everybody gathered in the center. Thousands of people. And I delivered the message to them. Message of peace. During that period, I called on the population. Tell me what you feel. Nobody should be afraid to talk here. Just say anything. Nobody will be threatened. And people pulled out what they had in them. I took that back. There on the during that, I had to give my number publicly. Say, all of you take my numbers. Give them to your sons and who are in this thing in the bush. Tell them to call me if they feel that they need some assistance to come out. I will bring them out safely. Many came out and complained that the children in the bushes, some are crying for, they don't have identity cards. I on the spot instructed the DO. Discussed with the DO and the security, the police. So what can we do in this situation? There and then the DO said, I will do this, bring me the person, bring this information, we'll get an ID for the person. I will not tell you what happened after that. Many people called me. Many of them came out. Their IDs were made in Enway. And they said, I've washed my hands from this thing and I'm gone. That early period. And after that, we have been talking to, when there's a challenge anywhere, I will say, give me the number of the guy. And I will talk. Some in the beginning, when you call them, they were, so arrogant. They will shout at you. But you don't shout at me. When you shout, I tell you what it means by shouting. Until we start talking and understanding. I will not tell you like there are some that if you call now, they say, Daddy, good afternoon. They are now understanding. And it's a gradual process. Tomorrow, 3, they will say, okay.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte. De lundi à vendredi sur Equinoxe Télévision.
Encore une matinée ensoleillée dans mon